Let me ask you, congregation, have you been looking? Have you been searching? Have you been praying for a podcast about Kentucky basketball and football? Yeah! A show that will speak to you. A show built for you. Something powerful, fun, real, raw, and opinionated. Well, baby, open up your ears as we open up our minds. Let's do this, baby. Let's do it. Welcome to Religiously Kentucky. If it's Kentucky football and basketball, we are all about it. And we're talking about it. And we're damn sure opinionated about it. This is Religiously Kentucky. And now your hosts, Jay Hayes, the Wild Child, and J.D. Hall, the voice of reason.
Big Blue Nation, what is up? Season 2, episode 1. We made it through the first season. Now here for season 2 and Final Four weekend.
There was basketball on yesterday.
See, now that's where I'm a college basketball fan. Kentucky is my team, but I love college basketball, and I see all these tweets and posts of people like, "Oh, there's a tournament going on. Oh, there's games." I gotta watch. I love the game.
I didn't watch just because it wasn't that I was avoiding it, but I get up at 3:45 in the morning,
Right?
like
Yeah,
not having a rooting interest in the games that were going on. You know, the first one didn't. You know, what time did the Kansas game get over? About 8:30 or something like that.
Yeah, somewhere around there. Yeah.
You know, I was winding down, getting ready to get in bed. So, it's not that I avoided. I kept track of what was going on through Twitter, you know, the tweets
Right.
and all that stuff, and ESPN, the ESPN app. So I knew what was going on, but I just didn't make a point to turn the games on.
I was full mode basketball fan, and it was fun to watch like Kentucky fans see who they were rooting for, and different scenarios. And of course, I had one saying, hopefully Kansas wins. And that's just some fun Twitter stuff that I put out there, but Kansas beats Villanova. That game was kind of blah to begin with. Villanova came back, and
it didn't help that Villanova's second best player blew out his Achilles the game before.
Right.
So that was a huge loss for them going into that game. And I don't think anybody really gave him a chance after he got hurt, because they were pretty thin anyway. They didn't play a whole lot of people.
Right.
They don't have much of a bench. So replacing him, I think I saw a tweet where it said that the starting lineup, or whatever lineup that was out there on the floor, was scoring like 88 points per 100 possessions, which isn't good. But they'd only played like 75 possessions together the entire season.
Yeah.
So they were already behind the 8 ball right there, playing that lineup that they were playing. And then you have Abaji comes out, starts 5 for 5 or 6 for 6 for 3, whatever it was.
On fire.
McCormick apparently was unstoppable in the post. So they were fighting an uphill battle as it was, just based on their size and lack of depth anyway.
Yeah.
And then you have like I said, you have Abaji come out and start the way he started. It was going to be tough for him.
Kansas kind of ran away with it to begin with, and then Villanova made a run back, cutting it. I believe it was down to 6 or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it was fun to watch Kentucky fans, like I said, root to different reasoning of why they wanted whatever team to win, and then we had UNC and Duke,
right?
And UNC coming out, and of course, I'm like, there's no way the refs are not going to let this happen. It happened.
Right. And I saw a lot of tweets from Duke fans. Well, even Seth Davis complaining about the refs, saying, "Oh, of course the refs are screwing Duke again." Like,
Yeah. No.
apparently you don't watch college basketball because
absolutely not. Yeah.
Duke always gets the calls, always.
Right.
And I for one, I'm happy that K lost his final game. I said this last week on Round of Shots. I didn't want that to be a Wooden type exit for him,
Right.
where he wins a title on his last freaking game of his career and then walks away as national champion. I mean, the only saving grace is that it wouldn't have been against Kentucky like it was when Wooden beat Kentucky in 75. So, but I'm happy Duke lost and K lost. And, you know, I was talking with a guy at work today, you know, about you know, Coach K and the way he's leaving. And I brought up Roy Williams. Now, I'm not a big Roy Williams fan, but I respect the way that he left the game last year.
Right.
Yeah, there was no big fanfare. He didn't make a big deal about it. He was just like, you know what? I'm done. I'm walking away. My dude Hubert Davis,
the players.
He's the one that's taking over. Like,
right.
I'll be here to support him. You know, whatever. And it was done. And it was over with.
Right.
And then you've got the polar opposite with Coach K.
Yeah.
Who made it a point to announce over the summer or last year that this was going to be his last season. And so that he would get all this fanfare everywhere he went. Everybody would just fawn over him all year long, especially ESPN and you know, all those guys there. Now,
he could have just sent a letter to the refs.
Don't take this as me disrespecting, you know, what Coach K has done.
Right.
Because he's undeniably one of the greatest coaches of all time. But that's a huge ego,
big time,
that you're rubbing on when you announce and you go through this and you say it's going to be my last year, so you get all of that.
How much more pressure did it put on those players?
I think a tremendous amount of pressure,
right,
that it put on them, because now, you know, you're the team that has to perform throughout the year with all the focus on you guys and how you're performing and what you're doing and all that stuff.
Right.
So I think it put a lot of pressure on them to try to live up to the hype, and they were close. They almost did it. But it couldn't have happened to a better group of players to lose in the Final Four.
Yeah.
And to have North Carolina be the team to end not only their regular season at home with all that fanfare, but then their postseason, you know, with all the fanfare about is K gonna walk away a champion, and is this gonna be, you know, it's I just find it funny that it's North Carolina that did it both times.
Right. My memory of Coach K will be him riding away in that golf cart.
And
the game.
I didn't see, like, I saw a tweet. I didn't watch the video I saw the video, but I didn't bring it up so I had sound. Did he really say maybe you can superimpose a sunset behind me? Like he's riding off into the sunset?
I don't know.
Because that's what the tweet said. That's what the tweet said that accompanied the video with him and his wife when they got on the back of the golf cart.
Yeah.
And he was making a motion like this as it started to move and walk away. And he was saying something. So maybe he did say maybe you can superimpose a sunset. Yeah.
Right. So, but with that being said, though, bye. Oh man. Let me say though, college basketball needs a villain.
Mm-hmm.
Coach K was our villain.
I think they're still going to have it because it's not like John Shire was well liked by college basketball fans when he was at Duke anyway.
Right.
So, and you still got Bill Self at Kansas. Now I know he's
who's gonna fill.
I know he's well liked.
Villain.
I know he's well liked by the media and stuff like that. But when you're one of the top coaches, you're going to be viewed as the villain.
Yeah.
Right. So you got you're going to have, Coach Cal. There's a lot of people that hate on Coach Cal.
Oh yeah.
A lot in our fan base that hate on Coach Cal.
He's the villain in our own fan base.
Right. So there are definitely candidates out there. Jim Boeheim.
Yeah.
Who's just a fucking curmudgeon up there at Syracuse.
Right.
So you have choices for the villain. Maybe Nate Oates, because he's demonstrative on the sidelines. Like when he told Will Wade to get the fuck out. So you have options. There's options out there for the villain. But I think that comes with the longevity that Kay had at Duke.
Yeah.
That made him the villain.
Yeah.
It probably wasn't necessarily him, but a lot of the media attention too that made him, so unliked by a lot of other fan bases.
Right. Let me ask you this: Kansas and UNC for the title.
Mm-hmm.
Kentucky beat Kansas by what? 18.
18. Yeah.
And UNC by 29.
Mm-hmm.
For the title. How does that sit with you? Because I know it's past, and and it is one of those things. We were gelling at the time that we played them. We were hitting shots, and some people say, Kevin Hale, that both of these teams would beat Kentucky now, and I'm not on that, with him. I disagree totally, because I believe Kentucky hitting shots, the team that Kentucky was at that time, still beats these teams.
Absolutely. The Kentucky team pre-February 12th is a national title contender. The Kentucky team we saw the last 9 games,
right,
is a first-round exit.
Right, by St. Peter's, of course.
Right. They're two separate teams.
Yep.
And you're never going to convince me that the injuries weren't the reason.
Right.
For what happened at the end of the season.
It happens.
And it's unfortunate
that
it happened. And I think there was a belief amongst the fan base and amongst the coaching staff that once Ty and Severe got healthy and we brought them back, everything would just fall right back into place. And it didn't, for whatever reason, was Ty not completely healthy? Was Grady a little banged up from those 2 games where he was playing, against Alabama and LSU, where he was carrying the load? Was Davion a little nicked up that, nobody was talking about with his shooting hand? I think there's a lot more going on with the backcourt than just Ty and Severe. Just those 2 were the most injured, which caused them to miss games.
Right.
Then Grady losing his confidence in his shot and never quite getting it back. So there was just it was a perfect storm to end the season the way that it ended.
Yeah.
And, to say there's a misconception out there that if you don't blame Cal 100% for what happened at the end of the season, you're saying he's blameless. And I think we both said that there were things that Cal could have done
to
help mitigate what happened at the end of the season. Playing more guys would have been big, because now you lessen the load on your backcourt if you play Bryce Hopkins. So,
right.
You get him 15 minutes a game to take some of that pressure and that load off of Grady, especially. Is there something he could have done different with the offense? Maybe, but nobody was complaining about the offense when they were 21-4.
Got to hit shots.
That's
the difference in the offense to me. It's like if you're hitting shots, the offense is a different look.
And it's not like Grady was not getting open looks from 3. It's not like Davion wasn't getting open looks from 3. It's not like Ty wasn't getting to his mid-range shot, which he was money on.
Yeah.
Before he got hurt.
Yeah.
And they were still getting all the same shots they were getting before. They just weren't making them. And if you're still getting the shots you were getting before, and you stop making those shots, then what's your adjustment as a coaching staff? What do you do differently? You go to what's working. And what was working was Oscar in the paint. Yep. He was still consistent. He was still doing what he was doing. And you saw that the last couple of games where instead of just letting Oscar be a part of the game and not be a focus of the offense, they had to make him a focus of the offense, and they had to run everything through him. And that's not the player that Oscar is. As great as he is, that's not him.
Right.
Although he did have 30 points and 16 rebounds against St. Peter's. So, but it's still, he's not the type of player that can carry your offense, because he is limited offensively with what he can do, because of his height and because he's not overly athletic as far as he's not explosive.
Right.
He's kind of a below the rim guy. Like he doesn't, you see him doing a bunch of layups off the backboard and not dunking a lot.
Right.
And I think that was the only thing that was working for him. Like nobody was doing the things that they were doing just 6 games before.
Right.
So it's not like this was a full season meltdown problem issue that they were having. Davion Mintz went from one of the best defenders in the country to one of the worst defenders in the country over that span. Now, is that an indicator that teams were attacking him more? I don't think so, because it didn't look like teams were doing anything different against Kentucky that they hadn't done all year.
Right.
They were still putting Oscar in those pick and roll situations, which we saw he struggled at times with pick and roll defense. But for whatever reason, Grady and Davion became almost unplayable on the defensive end. And that wasn't something you saw all year long.
Yeah.
So there were multiple reasons for why that slump at the end of the year happened. And there's not one answer as to what would have fixed it.
Right.
When you don't have a lot of length on the perimeter, you can't play zone. You can't really play zone, not effectively anyway, because you can't get out there and challenge a lot of shots when you're playing zone that way. So when your point guard's 5'9" and your starting 2 guard is 6'3", that's not a lot of length out there at the top of that zone. So I don't think that would have been the answer either.
Right.
So, but it is what it is. Like I moved on the day after that game.
Right.
I think you were the same way.
Yeah.
Like, shit happens.
It happens.
Every great team and every great coach has lost this type of game in the tournament.
Has been through that. Yeah. Well, Kansas and UNC for the title. You got to pick one. Well, you know what I'm saying. I'm not saying
right.
You're all on board with a team. Say you pick one. Who you going with? As a Kentucky fan, you got to have that reasoning to say who you want to win. I got to go with Kansas.
I'm leaning that way too, just for the fact they've only got 3 national titles, and that would give Carolina 7.
Right. So you break all that stuff down.
Right.
The lesser of the evils is Kansas.
And Kentucky,
of course, you hope the NCAA smacks their head off.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I've been seeing you say that about taking away this title.
Well,
that ain't happening.
I don't believe that. I'm just saying, they're going to take some wins away for sure.
They absolutely should. So that's one reason why the whole, most wins thing doesn't bother me, because I fully expect Kansas to lose at least a season's worth of wins.
Right.
So, but then, going back to hoping that Kansas wins, not really wanting Kansas to win.
Right.
If I had my choice, it'd be a power outage and the game would never happen.
Exactly.
But Kentucky does have, the University of Kentucky does have the ties to the Kansas program with Adolph Rupp. So if I had to choose, if you put a gun to my head and said, you need to pick a team that's going to win the national title or you're going to die, I'd have to go with Kansas.
Right. And that's the simple way of a Kentucky fan saying that he has to choose a team. But yeah, I mean,
I'm not happy about having to choose Kansas.
Right.
You know, if I
don't want either team to win.
Of any one of the 4 teams that was left, I would have gone with Villanova anyway. You know, of those 4 teams.
I wouldn't, just for the simple fact I don't want to hear Kentucky fans talk about how great Jay Wright is against Calipari. Like,
I mean,
come on now.
Yeah, that would have been
ugly,
kind of a pain in the ass, you know, and annoying.
Yeah,
but you know, Jay Wright's really not an unlikable guy.
Yeah, he's not.
You know, Coach K.
He's never leaving Villanova.
No, he's never leaving Villanova. He's a Philly guy. He's a Philly guy. He's not leaving.
Right.
Oh, Bill Self. I don't know. I think I don't want to say he's unlikable. I don't like him because he's at Kansas. I didn't have an issue with him when he was at Illinois or when he was at Tulsa. Hubert Davis, I think, is going to end up being a pretty likable coach.
Yeah.
You know, I really liked Hubert Davis when he was on ESPN. So, but there really wasn't except for Coach K, because to me, he is an unlikable person.
Yeah.
Because you see him after a game, if they win the game, he's gracious. He gives the other team so much credit about the game and how they played and all this other stuff.
Acceptable.
But if they lose the game, he's kind of a prick.
Yeah.
Like, we all saw what he did to Dylan Brooks, is that his name, from Oregon? You know, when they beat Duke in the tournament, and he stopped him in the handshake line to admonish him for taking a shot at the end of the game. Like, why? Like, you're not his coach. Like, keep your fucking mouth shut.
Right.
Like, there's no reason for you to stop him in the middle of the freaking line and basically yell at him for taking a shot at the end of the game because the game was over, or you felt like the game was over. You know, we saw the way he acted after the North Carolina game at Cameron to end the season. You know, he's not a very good loser.
Right.
Now, I'm not saying I would be a good loser, but when you're in that spot and in that position, you've got to be better than what you've seen from him at times when they've lost games. So, to set a better example, not for your players, but for, you know, maybe these young coaches that are watching you, or these young kids that want to be coaches that are watching you.
Right.
You know, to show them an example of how to act after you lose a game.
Right.
You know, it's easy to be gracious in a win. It's a lot harder to be gracious in a loss.
Very, very. Well, we'll know by the time you hear this, Kansas would probably win. I don't know. I don't really care, but I will pull for Kansas. I think they're the lesser of the evils, but we'll find out tonight, Monday night. But season over, gone, done. Now it's time to move on. And the transfer portal is comedy when it comes to Kentucky fans. And I say this because everyone that hits the portal, Kentucky fans are like, let's get him. He's a Wildcat. Let's go get him. Now, let me ask you, with that being said, let me ask you this.
Mm-hmm.
Is it a good or bad thing that we are very quiet right now when it comes to the portal?
Well, let me ask you, how loud was Kentucky last year in the portal?
Yeah.
Like, everything that was done with Kentucky wasn't done loud or nobody knew was like, did we know Kellen Grady was coming to Kentucky until like it was already known that he was going to commit, that he was on campus and he committed?
And that's my point.
Severe Wheeler came late.
News is good news.
Right. Severe Wheeler came late. You know, CJ Frederick came late. And so I don't think the lack of noise surrounding the transfer portal with Kentucky is anything to be concerned for.
Anybody that hits the portal, watch the
now, are there players that have hit the portal that would probably be really good at Kentucky or good for Kentucky to pick up. The Sears kid from Ohio would probably be a good pickup. I think he's like 6'4".
Right.
You know, so it gives you good size on the wing. Average like 20 points a game. The kid from Utah Valley State, the big center, Bardaz Amik, or however you say his name, shot 43% from three as a 7-footer. Now, is that gonna translate from the Mountain West Conference or wherever they play to the SEC? Who knows? So there are guys out there that are in the portal that would be nice to have.
Right.
You know, especially if Oscar leaves, you're going to have to find somebody to bring in to replace maybe not all of his production, but a good bit of it. You know, you've got to you're going to have to replace 15 points and 15 rebounds somehow. Yeah. And whether that's with a guy that comes in is going to give you 8 points, 9 rebounds, and you have Lance Ware, Damian Collins coming in to make up the rest of that. Yeah.
We don't know who's leaving. Well, we know Dante Allen is leaving.
And, you know, there was a lot of people I saw saying, well, if they haven't announced, you know, they're waiting to the end of the semester to announce that they're transferring. Well, you can announce your transfer and stay in class. Like it doesn't, you don't lose your scholarship once you announce you're going to enter the portal.
Well, there's some, you know, some dates they have, you know, some guys are, you
May
know,
1st.
We want to go and look and see what's.
Well, I think May 1st is the last day to enter the portal.
Right.
So you got about a month to put your name into the portal. But, you know, if there was so much smoke and a lot of people talking about Bryce Hopkins transferring after the season, if he was that committed to transferring, why hasn't his name been put in the portal yet?
Right.
Now watch, I'll say that, and then tomorrow his name will be in the portal. But at this point, you know, a month after the season's over, almost a month, 3 weeks, whatever.
If a lot of people thought, you know, they thought he was just dead set on leaving,
that he was gone.
It would have been announced by now.
You would have thought it would be announced by now. If Ty was 100% ready and willing to go to the NBA,
and that's another thing that's a deadline date decision too.
June 1st, I believe is the date for that. You would think that maybe his announcement would have come already. So the fact that things are quiet to me is good news.
Right.
It's good news. Like
me as well.
Like with Oscar, you know, there's the whole question around his NIL. Yeah, like it came out, what was it, a month ago or whatever, that he was eligible for NIL. And then we find out that he can make the money, but he can't touch the money. Like, you know, he can't use it. It's just sitting there. And if he does, then he can get deported. Like, so now they're still working through all that stuff. And I've been told that Oscar wants to come back.
Yeah.
Which would make sense because you saw the love that he has for this program and the coaches and the fans. It would make sense that he would want to stay as long as he could, especially if he can make money without having to give up this college experience, and probably make as much, if not, well, probably more if he's a second-round draft pick than, you know, if he stays at Kentucky, he's able to get that NIL money.
Right.
You know, same thing with Shaedon Sharpe. If he was for sure going, you know, and it was 100% decided that he was gone, why haven't we heard something on that front yet? You know, I listened to the source.
They have at number 6 going to the Trailblazers.
I listened to the Sources Say podcast this week. Shout out to Jack and Sean. And Jack was talking about, you know, a lot of the NBA guys aren't as high on Shaedon Sharpe right now as they were before. And that the mock draft guys aren't the ones that are making the pick.
Right.
You know, so they'd be comfortable picking him in like the, you know, 10, 11, 15 range instead of that 4, 5, 6, 7 range.
Right.
Because he is an unknown commodity. You know, he hasn't played. By the time the draft comes around, it'll be almost a year since he's played.
And making big money in college is a business decision.
Right.
Because I want to go 1 through 5.
So, Jack put it out there. The number 1 pick is like $9.5 million a year on your first contract. The number 10 pick's like $3 million.
Right.
That's a big difference.
Yeah.
So if you're being projected in that 8 to 15 range, where you're going to get paid $2 to $4 million, but you're going to make that in college.
Yeah.
Like it makes that decision harder to make. It's not just cut and dry that you're jumping to the league.
Right. I'm also hanging on to what Kyle Tucker said as well. With what his family said.
Right.
But the money thing that you just touched on is huge.
But talking about Kyle Tucker, you have to take the kid and his family and the people around him at their word.
Yeah.
And if their word the entire time since before he got there, when it was being announced that he was going to come, to when he got to campus, to while he was on campus, to now hasn't changed. And it's always been, we're coming back next year. We're going to play at Kentucky. We're not going to the league. We plan on sitting out this year. Like, if all that stuff was being said, I'm not going to call the kid and his family and everybody a liar.
Right.
Right now.
I mean,
and I'm not even calling him
right.
call him a liar if they change and he ends up going to the league.
Right, because things change.
Situations change.
Right.
But I'm not gonna lose my mind right now worrying about what could or may happen.
Right.
I'm gonna take what they're saying at their word at face value, because I have no inside information. You have no inside information. All we can do is listen to what they are saying. They've been saying from the beginning,
right,
is that we're coming back next year. So, and if what we were told by Kyle is accurate, that Kyle didn't even want him to come to Kentucky unless he said for sure he was going to be back next year, I don't know where all the hand wringing is coming from right now. I know what the draft boards and the projections are saying.
Yeah, the mock drafts. The one I just said, I saw him going number 6,
right,
to Trailblazers. Yeah,
but I think it might have been Kyle Tucker tweeting about it. Like, he's already behind, like, the evaluation and getting his name in there and applying for the draft. He's already behind the 8 ball, like behind schedule,
right,
on those things. So, to me, I'm holding out hope that he's going to be back next year, because if he's back next year, that's a big part to next year's team.
Right.
You pair him with Cason Wallace and Chris Livingston and Severe Wheeler and CJ Frederick. That's a pretty phenomenal backcourt.
Right.
And then potentially Oscar and Damian Collins and Jacob Toppin. I mean, that's a lot of weapons out there on the floor.
Yeah.
So I'm going to hold out hope, and I'm going to lean to him coming back, because of that's always been the plan. That's what they've been saying, and nothing's changed.
I'm on board with you, and I didn't want to be the one to say it, because I have enough craziness, put on me. So I'm relieved to hear you say that, because I'm with you. I'm holding on to hope that he comes back,
but that's being reasonable,
right?
But that's being reasonable. That's not being emotional about
right.
stuff you're seeing out there on Twitter and on the internet about his draft prospects. So that's, me stepping back and not being emotional about what I'm seeing, and taking a reasonable approach, being like, okay, they've said this, and this. I'm going to believe that, and that until they show me something different.
Facts.
So,
so we got Dante Allen leaving. Let me ask you this, Mr. Kentucky basketball, which Dante Allen was, leaving Kentucky. Am I the only one that thought about that? Has that ever happened before? To Kentucky, leave Kentucky? It has happened before. In 1982, Todd May left Kentucky after 4 games, went to Wake Forest, didn't play anything, and then left there and went to Pikeville. Yeah. So I thought about that and was like, has a Mr. Kentucky basketball ever left? And not down on the kid, but at the time, phenomenal player. But at the time, I didn't think he should have won Mr. Kentucky basketball.
Well, he didn't play that year.
Right.
He played
And
what,
that
5
was
games
the
his senior
reasoning.
year?
And I argued with a lot of people, and they're like, "Oh, you're just hating on the kid." I'm like, he didn't play.
Right.
His David Johnson is who I thought should have won, who went to Louisville, played 2 years,
Mhm.
and now plays for the Raptors in the NBA. Just saying. But that was a bit of information, and I did reach out to Corey Price to when that thought popped in my head, and he was like, "Wow, yes, it did." And I was like, "Thank you." So, because you wouldn't think Mr. Kentucky basketball would leave Kentucky, and
Well, I
so
mean,
this is the second time,
now Chris Lofton didn't go to Kentucky,
right?
but he
Well,
wasn't recruited. He
Tubby
wasn't
Smith,
recruited by Kentucky.
right? Tubby Smith
You
didn't
know,
reach out. There's a whole story about that.
right.
That Chris Lofton
and
told out of his mouth.
right, and I'm probably wrong. Doesn't happen very often. But wasn't Allen Houston from Kentucky too?
Yes.
And he went to Tennessee.
Yes. Yes.
So there's a couple of pretty good Kentucky basketball players from the state of Kentucky that weren't recruited by Kentucky.
Right.
And ended up going to Tennessee.
Yeah.
So
and setting records.
right.
Might add. But yeah, that's part of it. But yeah, basketball season over. And we can only hope that we get some pieces back that we want. I think John Calipari will figure it out. Cal has adapted to the game. These people are crazy saying that some coaches adjusted, some didn't. Pointing fingers at Cal is absurd.
I saw that about Kansas and North Carolina specifically. But Kansas they didn't change anything. Okay?
Right.
What happened with Kansas is Remy Martin got healthy and started playing like the player they thought he was going to be at the beginning of the year.
Right.
That was the adjustment that Kansas made, was getting an all Big 12 player back healthy and playing like that, and giving them somebody else to take the scoring load off of Abaji in the backcourt.
Yep.
That was the adjustment for Kansas. It wasn't that Bill Self did anything differently throughout the season.
Only thing he adjusted with his hairpiece. That's the only thing that got adjusted.
Now, as far as North Carolina goes, I don't know. I didn't watch enough of their games to know if anything changed throughout the season. I think they started playing a little bit better defense.
Yeah,
for one,
they did.
And that's not necessarily an adjustment if you don't change what you're doing defensively, scheme wise.
Right. Players started hitting some shots too. That's one thing I noticed about North Carolina.
And I think David Sisk would be a good person to ask if Carolina changed anything throughout the season,
right.
to change their trajectory, especially after the Kentucky game, because he covers. Not only does he cover Kentucky basketball, he covers North Carolina basketball for Rivals, and he does a lot of film breakdowns and stuff like that for him. So, but I don't know if they really changed much of anything, other than players starting to play to their ability. Going back to what game was it? Who did they play before St. Peter's? Was it?
I can't remember.
I don't even remember either. But I was watching that game, and then I think it was Caleb Love hit back to back like insanely deep threes in that game to kind of give them the lead. That's not necessarily an adjustment. That's just a dude jacking up a shot, and making a couple of shots.
Yeah.
So, did they adjust? Maybe, but unless you're watching every game of Kansas and North Carolina, can you 100% say that they adjusted and changed things?
It's just pointing the finger at Cal.
Right.
That's all they do.
But like I said, the biggest thing for Kansas was just getting Murray Martin healthy and playing.
Yep.
So that changed the dynamic of that team.
Yeah. Well,
getting that one guy back.
The college basketball season is over. And we got to look forward to this coming year. A lot of Kentucky doing a lot of big things. Bahamas, London, all kinds of great stuff. Also, could also bring some players back as well. I think, those are big things. But anyway, football is upon us. Well, in 100 some days, but we do have spring football and get a look. And then I'm hearing reports coming out saying Kentucky's offense is beast mode, doing good stuff. Wow, you're really going to love this offense. I think everyone knew that, really.
Right.
Added a lot more speed. Got some guys, got a second-year quarterback now. My concern is the defense. No one's talking about the defense. and like I said before, I said it on Round the Shots too. I hope this is not a team that gets 300 plus yards dropped on their head every game by every team we play.
Well, I just went, and before we came on here, I wanted to read up on some things. So I read Justin Rowland's scrimmage notes.
Right.
And, talking about the offense, he said in there wasn't a whole lot of push from the offensive line when they were running the ball, not a whole lot of big runs. So that was a question mark during the scrimmage. And it makes getting a tackle in the portal still a pretty big priority for them. So that they have that push up front for the running game, but they've been focusing and featuring the passing game, which makes sense when you bring back Will Levis. You have the wide receivers that you have in that room,
right?
With Tavion Robinson and Javon Baker and those guys, and Donut, and Donut's a running back now, but
Crowdus
and those guys. And then you got Keaton Upshaw at tight end. You've got the wide receiver that went to tight end last year.
If you wouldn't have said that, I would.
But anyway, they got those weapons out there in the passing game to use and exploit. So hopefully they can get that run game figured out, which I have no reason to believe that they wouldn't. They've shown over the last few years that that's going to be a constant, that they're going to get that figured out and they're going to have success running the ball.
Right.
But
run the damn ball.
he also pointed out Drew Phillips did some good things out there on the field at cornerback. So they've got a couple of guys that they feel good about at corner with Drew Phillips and Carrington Valentine. You not excited about Valentine, are you?
Man, I just
but here's the thing. Like last year, he was kind of, he was raw. It was his first year
right
playing. So you expect him to have some issues on the field going through those, those learning curves, or those learning through going through the fire, So the question mark is still, though, who's gonna take Vito's spot and fill that, gaping hole on the defense.
Right.
There was talk, I guess, of Jordan Lovett possibly doing that, because he's done some good things and shown some things during spring ball. Joel Williams could possibly be that guy. So they've got guys in the program. It's just that they're unproven.
Right.
But unproven doesn't mean bad. Like Van said last week on Round of Shots, when he was coming in, he was the unproven guy.
Yeah.
And it turned out okay. So it just because they're unproven doesn't mean they're going to be bad. And I expect a big jump from Carrington Valentine, because we saw flashes last year of what he could do and how how good he could be.
I think the defensive line is going to be great.
And that's the
So
thing.
that could ease some of my worry.
If you're front seven, if you have a strong front seven,
Right.
that can put pressure on the quarterback,
Right.
it helps your corners because they don't have to cover as long. They can cover tighter because they don't have to cover as long.
Right.
Because that ball is going to come out quick. So, they're going to move up. They're not going to be play off coverage as much. So they should be around the ball more often. But we're replacing another pretty big piece in that defensive backfield with Yusuf Corker. Him and Asian played 2-3 years together. So their communication was pretty good. And Justin talked about one of the touchdowns that the offense scored was basically because of communication error between Jalen Geiger and Tyrell Asian. And that'll probably you would imagine that's going to get straightened out.
Yeah.
Through practice time and playing together. So
did Justin Rowland say that Levis put up 300 plus yards on the defense?
It's a scrimmage, so I don't think they keep stats that way.
Right. But looking forward to football season. A lot of good stuff to be excited about. I mean, it really is. Kentucky football trending in the right direction. Kentucky basketball a lot better this year. It was the season was a success,
Right. I'm not going to let the way that the season
first round.
I'm not going to let the way that the season end taint the entire season.
Exactly. So, and we just keep moving forward. A lot of good stuff with Kentucky football and basketball coming in the future. But JD, you know what time it is.
You are so dumb. You are really dumb. For real.
And now it's time for the dumbest shit from Twitter this week.
It's dumb, dumbass.
What you got, JD?
We're not going to get real serious on this until the last one. But let's start with our buddy Matt Jones. So UConn played NC State, almost a week ago, 5 days ago. And NC State was down 3 with 6 seconds to go. And they run a play, a little flare screen to get a shooter open in the corner.
Right.
For a 3-point shot.
Right.
That was very well defended, by the way. The contest was really good. So it's not like it got them a wide open shot. And Matt tweeted out, this is how you set up a play for a game tying 3. Game tying 3. What a play and what a shot. That's not
that was a dangerous pass.
That was. Because if that's a 6'6" forward, that ball's probably going the other way for a layup.
Yeah.
But
Very
let's
dangerous.
not act like Kentucky's never ran that same exact freaking play. Right? We run flare screens all the time.
Right.
After
watching that play a couple times, I'm like, I'm totally convinced that wasn't the play that was drawn up.
It was a hell of a shot. I'm not taking anything away from the shot that was made.
The shot was great.
But it wasn't a great play call.
Right. Exactly.
It ended up great because she made the shot. But we ran the exact same play last year with Devin Askew as our point guard to Davion Mintz in the corner, who with a better shot. The defender wasn't within 4 feet of Davion when he took the shot. So the play worked a whole lot better than just throwing it from the top of the 3-point line to the corner. If you can get into the middle and run that same flare screen, and now you got guys that have to defend you as a driver of the basketball, and they can't jump out to that shooter in the corner, which is how that play is supposed to be ran.
Right.
Is the pass isn't supposed to come from the top of the key like that, the top of the 3-point line. It's supposed to come from the middle of the defense. So that defender that defender that's going underneath the screen has to account for the person that's in the paint. And it gives that shooter another second or two to get that shot off.
Right. Just half a second, not even that, away from taking that pass down the court for a layup. Not good. No.
I think the next one we'll talk about Big Game Boomer. He's got a couple of them on here.
Right.
So we'll go with him. You sent me the one where you said teams take a step back or forward in 2022.
Right. This is football teams.
Football teams. Yep. And he has Kentucky as his number 2 team to take a step back this year.
And see, and now wait a minute, because see, I thought about it. And on our defense,
but our defense wasn't good last year.
True.
So, if that's your worry, then it's a pretty unfounded worry,
right?
If that's what's shaking your confidence in what this team's going to be. If you're going to have concerns about Kentucky, maybe think about the tackle spot,
right?
Because we lost both our tackles.
Yep.
But Kentucky has shown that they can replace guys. And until they don't, I'm going to believe that they can.
True.
And now we have a quarterback who's in his second year in the program, in essentially the same system they ran last year, just with a different offensive coordinator. And so you have to think he's going to be better.
Right.
You got a wide receiving core that overall, from top to bottom, should be better.
Right.
And not so top heavy with Wandale and Josh Ali. So
the voice of reason.
That's why that's why this is funny to me, because he's got NC State as his number 1 team to take a step forward. Miami, his number 3 team to take a step forward.
Yeah.
It's laughable if those are the teams that you've got to take a step forward. What have they shown you, especially Miami, in the last 10 years, that they can be that team?
Right.
They continually change coaches at Miami, and they always get the same result.
I will say this: Big Game Boomer is a Kentucky hater. All these great graphs that he puts up, or whoever it is, are great, but they're always bashing Kentucky. Always.
Which takes me to the next one from Big Game Boomer, which he put out today, 5 hours ago. I sent this to you. The top 50 greatest college basketball coaches of all time. Looking at that list, what's a name? Whose name do you not see on that list?
Oh man, Rupp is not on this list.
Adolph Rupp is not on his list. So right there, his list is null and void.
We can't take you serious, Big Game Boomer.
He has Eddie Sutton and Hank Iba from Oklahoma State on there, but he doesn't have doesn't have Adolph Rupp, who, when he retired, was the winningest basketball coach of all time.
Right.
And it's not like he was passed really quick. When did Knight pass him? It took a long time for Knight to get to that point.
Yeah.
I think Adolph Rupp is what now, like 4th or something like that. So he's been passed a couple of times. But to not have Adolph Rupp on your list just completely voids your list.
Yeah, we can't take you serious.
We can't take anything on there. It's got Raleigh Massimino on there at number 45. And yes, he won a title at Villanova.
He did have John Calipari at 26.
I see that. But when you start looking at some of the other players that he's got on there, or some of the other coaches he's got on there, it's like, wow, really? Like that's who you chose to put on there? Like, you've got Bob Huggins at 23, but you don't have Adolph Rupp on there?
Come on, Big Game Boomer. Speaking of Bob Huggins, you sent this one not too long ago. Oscar Tshiebwe got to be the worst player of the year this century, right? What the fuck?
He only did something that hasn't been done in 42 years.
Only.
Right?
Only.
1979, 1980, that season was the last time there was a player that averaged 15 points, 15 rebounds per season. But, yeah, fuck me. Oscar's the worst national player of the year ever.
Do
So
you? What kind of? Let's see. What
I'm
kind
not
of
even going to
fan
try to
is
say
this?
the name. I don't even know who he's a fan of. You know,
Iowa
Iowa.
Sports.
There you go. He's just pissed off that Keegan Murray didn't win it. That's all. That's all it is.
Oh
I mean,
man, you got to be a serious hater
and
to tweet that, bro.
that we took
That's
CJ Frederick from him.
yeah.
Those are the two reasons why
You
that
got to
dude's
be
all
a
pissed off about Oscar.
serious hater to tweet that. Oh man, speaking of hate, I had someone go back 9 months, 8 months, 9 months, somewhere around it, last year's tweets on my profile to quote tweet it. So all I can say is, look, Ma, I made it.
I saw. I can't remember what your tweet was about.
It was when I was
you were
stirring the pot when the
you were
Kentucky
stirring the pot, but I don't remember what it was stirring the pot for.
Yeah, I was stirring the pot about Kentucky fans, making fun of the Kentucky fans.
Oh,
Get rid of
yeah.
Terry Wilson.
Yeah. The whole thing about Will Levis and Terry Wilson and
Yeah,
Joey
yeah,
Gatewood.
yeah. And I was making fun, poking fun at those fans doing that shit, stirring the pot.
Right.
And of course,
I think he
some
thought
people
you meant
just read titles.
He thought you were
and not the
serious
story.
about that because
Right.
We talked about that on here when you put that out.
Exactly.
So
look, Ma, I made it. You're making it when they go back 9 months on your profile to quote tweet your shit.
That's a lot of tweets to go through from you too.
Oh man. I mean, like they were digging. They was in my profile.
Right.
That's funny. But yeah, that was the dumbest shit from Twitter this week. Man, great episode. Way to start season 2.
I will say though that guy that did quote tweet that is generally pretty level headed when it comes to tweeting about Kentucky sports. So
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Just don't read the title, read the story. So
right.
But yeah, so great episode, season 2, episode 1, new beginnings. We got this. I mean, and soon when we get closer after our break, most likely when we get closer to Kentucky football, we're going to start getting some guys on here pretty soon. And also we'll give our predictions for the season. Mine is not going to be what you think.
Are you going to the spring game Saturday?
No, I will not be going. Got a lot of stuff going on family wise.
I'm making the trip down. So anybody that listens to this, if you're going to be at the spring game, let me know. Shoot me a DM or whatever.
Well, maybe if I can get around some things, I can go. But as of right now, no.
Yeah. Weather's not supposed to be great, but I mean,
right.
We'll see. We'll see what happens in a week.
Right. Well, with that being said, I am your guy, Jay Hayes, and he is
JD Hall,
the voice of reason. And we will be back next week with more Kentucky sports. Have a great week. Anything else?
Nah. Good episode.
Let's go.
Sadly, we're at the end. You've been listening to Religiously Kentucky. They say all good things must come to an end, and this was a damn good thing. But the good news for you is we'll be back soon. Thank you for listening to Religiously Kentucky. As you can see, we are not passing around the offering plates. Instead, we just ask you that you tell a friend about the show and tell them that the podcast is available on Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And you can find us on all social media platforms. Until next time, Big Blue Nation, this is Religiously Kentucky, signing off.
Hell yeah.